So a drift is, I often like to describe it, so when you watch Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, you see the dwarfs go off to work and they go hi-ho and they walk into a shaft which is at ground level, so you just walk into the coal seam horizontally. That's because it's often on a mountainside, so the coal is about by here, so ground level you can just walk simply in. Whereas with a deep shaft colliery, you have pit head gears which lower people down anything from 100 meters to 400 meters because the coal is deep underground, so you have to go down to get it, and then you're still working the same sort of seams, but you've gone down to meet it and then you walk across. The largest mine in this area would probably, in the Avon Valley, that would have been Dyffryn Rhondda Colliery. I think it peaks with a workforce of about 1,500 men. And the interesting thing with that colliery is that I think it peaks production in about 1913, 1914, when all of Wales's coal production was peaking, but that it peaked about 2 years after it opened. After that, it was always a steady decline until it closed in 1966. So collieries were opening really quite fast to keep up with this massive demand for coal. In the Clynvie Valley, the largest colliery would be the St John's Colliery in Maesteg. A lot of our volunteers worked at that colliery, and that closes in either 85, 86, so quite soon after the strike ended.
Me, my father, and my brother all worked in the colliery. Your father working in the colliery, and you'd all end up in the colliery.
Mining was in my blood from a young age. So when I left school, I passed 11 plus, but I didn't go to a grammar school. I went to a technical college, Bridgend Technical College. I still got the blue and grey cap in the house.
The only option we had in those days was the mines or the steelworks. So mines were closest to you, so you went to the mines.
Children in those days tended to follow their parents or their uncles, and most of my family were actually working in the Avon Colliery. So I put my name down with the coal board. I had a letter to go down. First of all, they turned me down because of my eyesight. And then they made their mind up that we'll have him to work on the surface. He won't be able to go underground because his eyes are too bad. So I started work in the colliery in September. So for the first year of my apprenticeship, I was in Bridgend Tech the full time. Then I went to the colliery, couldn't go underground, which actually broke my heart because I wanted to go underground and be a fully fledged electrician. I didn't want to stay on the surface. So after about 4 years, they came out with safety glasses, which I was able to use, and then I was able, the last year of my apprenticeship, because it was a 5-year apprenticeship, I was allowed to go underground.
7.25 hours was a normal shift underground.
7 till 7 o'clock in the morning. You had to be down the pit at 7, and you finish at 2. It used to be 2:30, didn't it? And then they cut a half hour off.
In different ways. That was just on a normal shift. But if you had a breakdown as regards to, if it does electrician, you had a breakdown, maybe haulage end went, you could be then underground for 24 hours.
Yeah.
Time you stripped it out, got it, send it to the surface, waiting for the new one to come down. Time you got into the section, you're maybe there 3-4 shifts.
The food 11 o'clock until 20 past. Conveyors would all stop at 11 o'clock, and then they'd all start up and they'd all go back to work then.
As a deputy, you want to know what the safety, and every 3 years you'd have to go then for schooling every 3 years to get you up to date and everything like that. And you do it for a week or a fortnight. I got on all right. I could go out in the pub and they buy me a drink and everything in the pub in the nights, and I was all right, no problem at all. I thought, because I've been on the coal, I done it all myself. I worked my way up, and I know what it is like.
I think one thing a lot of people forget is that not everybody underground was extracting coal. You know, as time goes on and safety gets a lot better and also production becomes a lot more, there's so much more coal being taken out, but mainly because you have things like explosives coming into play. So you would have had shot firers who were responsible for, you know, laying detonators to blow the coal out. Then you had people then loading it into drams. You had electricians underground because there was a whole load of equipment, and yeah, there was all sorts of different jobs, not just the people at the coal face slinging the coal out.
The good thing about working underground is everybody helped everyone. You couldn't have a real enemy because he could be saving you a life. You know, there were some people you didn't like, but you never had a real enemy because they'll be saving your life in a couple of hours time, or even, you know, an hour's time, like. So you always call people, always polite to people, you had to be.
A lot of our volunteers, I think they describe it perfectly, that they loved going to work. They have no regrets about that, but they wouldn't want their sons or daughters to do the same thing again because they view it as too dangerous. So there's that healthy, it's almost beautiful contradiction there. So, but it was definitely an industry, and I think the amount of disasters and deaths that occurred in the industry highlight that.
Yeah, one of the worst days of my life was when a guy got killed with us in Kevin Mower number 2 mine in Abercragan. It was the 2nd of the 2nd, 1990. And a Friday it was, just like any other Friday. And we went to work and went into the mine and started clearing the coal. And then about 12 o'clock we went out. It's only a matter of 5 minutes out the mine, because it was a drift mine, small drift mine. And we went to see the manager and have a cup of tea and a fag. That's it. Then we went back in and they decided that we have to bore the head in, the tunnel, the gate tunnel. So they said, well, I go and bore that, and they carry on doing clearing the coal. So that was it. So I had a young boy with me. And the next thing I heard a whoosh, like if the air had turned. A gallop of air comes through. And I thought, to do that is something have collapsed and pushed the air. So I said to this guy, come on, let's get this boy, let's get in here. So I got in, and one of the boys was with a stone over his legs and his back. So we pulled that off him and told him to make his way out. And he said, get Raymond, he said. So I could hear Raymond. So I crawled in and I could see Raymond. He was under a stone, a huge stone. The top had collapsed, the ceiling as you would call it, but collapsed on him. But he was still alive and he was shouting flash, you know. But little did I know this storm was huge. And I just couldn't get him out, you know. In the meantime, some guys had heard about this and they'd come in with a car jack, which we put underneath and jacked it up, and we had Raymond out, you know. But time had gone, you know. I'm a first aid man, or I was a first aid man. And we tried to get him back, but he couldn't, you know. And so he died, you know. And that's about the worst thing that ever happened to me.
I would say it's an extremely dangerous occupation, because it's not only the roof falls, it's also the gases, you know. But the one thing I will say about the coal board, whenever there was a disaster, they really, really looked into it. That's the one good thing about it. When you look at the biggest disaster of all, like Seng Enydd, where 434 miners were killed, it was caused by an electrical explosion. But because of that, they started to look at intrinsic safety. They started to look at flame proof, for all their equipment. But they did learn from their mistakes. Not all the time, but they did learn.
I've put a plaque up there There's a plaque on the mountain up there on the mine for him. I thought I'd put that. He was the last miner to get killed in the Avon Valley. So, it's up on the mountain anyway.